Hey guys, what is up? This is Altix here, and today I want to talk about a really interesting topic so far this NASCAR season, Chevy's lack of performance so far. I know we're only a few races in, but I think we've done enough practice sessions, enough qualifying sessions, and enough races completed to maybe gauge how this new Camaro might perform. Now, other teams such as Hendrick Motorsports, for certain reasons, are not up to pace, which is why I'll get to that later. But I think we can start talking about this a little bit. Uh, one, hold on. Okay, back. Sorry, I had to pull something up. Okay, so this has been a year that has been widely regarded by a lot of Chevy fans. Not really by myself. I'm a Chevy fan, but I haven't really said this a whole lot. People have been saying it's going to be a year of the Camaro, year of the Chevy. Chevy's going to come back and dominate over Toyota. Well, that hasn't exactly happened yet. And I know we're only 2 races in, but I think there are enough stats to back this up. No, right now Chevy is not doing very well. I think they only have maybe one top five, or I don't know where Larson finished in Atlanta, but I know he got third at Vegas. So obviously they have a new body, and people were really hyped about this new body being dominant and amazing, and that has not been the case. I'm actually kind of shocked that people are this surprised and talking this much about it. So let's go back to last year when Toyota came out with their new body. In the first mile-and-a-half cookie-cutter track, Atlanta, the five highest Toyota drivers that drive Toyotas, the five highest had an average finish of 12.4. So this is like Kyle Busch, Matt Kenseth, Truex Jr., those guys, their average was 12.4. This year, with the Chevy Camaro, the brand new body here, the best five finishing Chevy drivers had an average finishing position of 15. This included Larson, Dillon, etc., Chase Elliott. And now we're going to go to last year at Vegas. There was more data for this because last year Denny Hamlin DNF, but now we have the top six finishing Toyotas. From last year at Vegas, the highest finishing six Toyotas had an average finish of 12. So the highest, this year, the highest six finishing Chevrolets had an average finish of 11.6. So they were a little bit lower at Atlanta, but a little bit higher at Vegas. Generally, they were in the 10 to 15th place range in terms of the manufacturer's average finish. Another thing to notice is Ford started off last season in a dominating way. Kurt Busch won the season opener 500. Brad Keselowski won the following week at Atlanta. And Kevin Harvick won 3 of the 4 stages in NASCAR's 3-race stage format in the first 2 races last year. Harvick led almost 300 laps at Atlanta before the speeding penalty ruined that for him at Atlanta, which opened the door for Keselowski to win. Harvick wishing Keselowski with a top 3 in the standings going into Vegas. And then Keselowski, this article I'm reading off of was written before the Las Vegas race, but Keselowski won the pole for Vegas. So it wasn't that far into the season, but Fords had already dominated a lot. They had already set down some pretty big stats. It's the same thing this year. A major manufacturer is having a new body, and Ford is dominating. Now, I'm not saying Toyota last season went on to be really good following these few rough weeks, and I'm not saying Chevy's going to do that, but I'm just saying that you can't be so quick to judge because this early on, Toyota was struggling with their new body, and they went on to have the top 2 in points. Truex Jr. Sorry for the dog if you can hear it. Truex Jr. winning the championship with 8 wins, and Kyle Busch finishing second in points with 5. Even back then, it's not like everybody was oblivious to it. Kyle Busch was pretty aware of the conditions of the car. And as I'm reading here, obviously, this is a direct quote from the website. The sources are listed at the end of this. Compounding the loss of roughly 500 pounds of downforce this year is Toyota's introduction of a new Camry. Not surprisingly, there have been some growing pains. So, there's that. It's not necessarily that the drivers are just bad. It's a new car. They're going to need time to learn about it. If you take, for example, Hendrick Motorsports, Chase Elliott has arguably been the best running car there. Not even arguably, actually. He has been. He's been pretty stellar. Johnson, Bowman, and Byron have struggled so The reason behind Johnson's struggles, there are a few reasons I have for each driver. I don't really have anything. Actually, no, I do have something for Byron. Johnson's struggles, and in general for Hendrick Motorsports, all of their cars, they said it on the broadcast during the race, all of their cars were pre-built before Atlanta. All the other teams were building cars the week of, and they were able to use the data they learned from each race. The cars that Hendrick Motorsports used at Las Vegas, those cars were built before the Atlanta race, before any of the practices or anything like that. So all the stuff they learned from Atlanta and learned from Las Vegas, they still can't use because they're still going to be on pre-built race cars. So you have to give them time for that. Not saying that they should, that it's an excuse for Byron and Bowman suffering. I mean, Bowman has never really had a top-notch ride. He was with BK Racing for a few years, and he's shown talent. And Byron, I have stuff for Byron later. A thing with Johnson was Atlanta, they started out very poorly, obviously. They overdrove their tires. They went from 20th to 11th and back to 20th in about 25 laps and got lapped. They hovered around 20th for a lot of the race, but then started to show increasing speed until, unfortunately, looped it in turn 2, and that blown tire destroyed the car. So we weren't ever really able to gauge Johnson off of that. But then this week at Vegas, they started off badly again, but made adjustments and were even running times that were about as fast as the top 10 times, and were able to pull out with a P11 finish, or P12. I'm not quite sure where they placed. Regardless, they were able to make adjustments all day and eventually get that car up to pace. What held them back from moving up, though, was a little bit of damage they got. They got rear-ended in the middle of trying to avoid that wreck. The left rear quarter panel was bent forward, acted as a parachute, and they lost some speed. They still got a decent finish. Chase Elliott, he's been pretty good. He's been all right. He's been running top 10 consistently and carrying Hendrick Motorsports. But don't forget, we are 2 races in. So I'm now going to start defending a couple of drivers, actually. Let's start by defending Byron with Daniel Suarez. So, I'm going to use... Last year, Daniel Suarez was a rookie in top-of-the-line Joe Gibbs Racing equipment, and he was arguably rushed into Cup. A lot of people are questioning why they kicked Carl out so quickly and already have Suarez in the Cup car. In Atlanta last year, he finished 21st, and at Vegas, he finished 20th. Later on in the season, he continued to improve and performed at an outstanding level, and was consistently finishing in the top 10 closer to the second half of the season. And you know what? Probably would have easily made a round of 12, or maybe even round of 8, I don't know, if he had been performing that way all year. But he was a rookie, brand new to this car, and had a lot to learn. And it took about half a season for him to get the hang of it. And once he did, he was clicking off top 10s like it was nothing. So let's look at William Byron. Byron this year is in the same situation as Suarez. He's coming off of an Xfinity title, and what we've all been saying, rushed into Cup. Definitely. I think Byron needed another year. Either way, he finished 18th in Atlanta this year, and last week finished 20th at Vegas. Those are very similar to Suarez's finishes. 21st and 20th for Suarez last year, 18th and 20th for Byron this year. Byron is in Hendrick equipment, which the dominance of it has been questionable, obviously, the past few years. But still, it's good equipment. He is brand new. The kid's still in college. He's a sophomore in college. There's one thing. So, up to this point, Byron's career has been pretty similar to Suarez, almost identical, starting from their rookie campaigns in Xfinity. Both won a title, both got moved to a top Cup team, both struggled early on. This is hypothetical because we know that Suarez improved, but we don't know how Byron will improve. The point of this is saying people are judging Byron way too quick and have already lost faith, when Suarez did the exact same thing last year after being an Xfinity champion and then going on to be a front runner. So, yes, it is hypothetical. Now, I'm going to defend... I was supposed to switch to William Byron pictures. Well, we're going to switch to Jimmie Johnson. I'm going to use Kyle Busch to defend Jimmie Johnson. Last year at Atlanta, Kyle Busch finished P16 in their new Camry, and Jimmie Johnson finished 27th this year at Atlanta. I already explained why they finished so poorly. I think they could have gotten the top 15 at least if they had been able to finish the race. So last year at Las Vegas, Kyle Busch finished a disappointing 21st, and this year at Vegas, Jimmie Johnson finished 12th. Now, looking at 16th and 21st for Kyle Busch in the first 2.5-mile tracks last year, 27th and 12th for Johnson. Last year for Kyle Busch was a slow start. However, he went on to have another outstanding season. 5 victories, 14 top 5s, 22 top 10s, a whopping 8 poles, and a career high over 2,000 laps led in one season. He boasted an average finish of 7.2, and an average start of 7.2, and an average finish of 11.2. Arguably, he had one of his best seasons after having 2 rough races to start off. Now, in no way am I saying Jimmie Johnson is going to have this kind of season. He's not the same 5-time-in-a-row champion driver he used to be. He's old. But believe me when I say he's got everything it takes to put the 48 car in victory lane. Now, is it early to judge? Of course. But I can be saying that for a lot of people who are also saying, Jimmie Johnson's lost it. Oh no. Because nobody flipped out last year when Kyle Busch started poorly and asked if his career was over. He never established, although he's a monster of a driver, he never established a dominant legacy. A guy that goes out and wins 5 championships and over 50 victories, and he never did that. I'm not denying he's a really good driver though. Nobody cried out about how it's the end of Kyle Busch. He went on and won 5 races. With all of Jimmie Johnson's domination, a rough start seems to be the end. Granted, they had 20-something races plus without winning almost 30 at this point. Jimmie Johnson did acknowledge that it was not a car issue last year and that it was his own driving. He did say that the cars weren't as good as he wanted them to be, and he was driving the heck out of them. There's an article somewhere online that I forgot to put in the sources cited, but he did admit that he had been overdriving his cars last year and just trying too hard, rather than just feeling it where it is right in that moment and playing to how the car is working right now. He kept driving it too hard, and that was bad because in practice they would adjust it to him driving too hard and they would go the wrong way on adjustments. So he did admit his own fault there. So with a new outlook, it seems to have helped. He started fresh, struggling with a new race car. They seem to be doing just fine considering how Toyota did last season. Even with Toyota's rough start last season, Martin Truex Jr. and Kyle Busch alone had 11 victories between them. It's definitely early to say anything about Chevy, but so far this season mirrors last season very much in terms of rookie drivers who just won Xfinity Series struggling, new manufacturers with new cars struggling, timeless favorites that usually dominate are struggling, Kyle Busch and Jimmie Johnson, and the Fords are dominating early on. I'm not saying Ford is going to be derailed. I'm more saying Chevy is going to pick up, and so should its front drivers like Jimmie Johnson and now Chase Elliott, and so should its rookies like William Byron. They should all pick up. So, the question posed in the title of this video, is this the end of Chevrolet in NASCAR? Absolutely not. It's not, and by the end I don't mean, Chevy's going to pull out. I mean, they're not going to become irrelevant. They're fine. It's a new car, and a lot of teams need time to adjust to it. The Hendrick Motorsports situation, as soon as they're able to take the data they've got from the new car and from the first 2 races, or 3 races, I don't know how long, and put it into new cars, they'll probably be back up closer to the top of the leaderboards. Johnson already where he is will probably be there. Byron and Bowman, that messes me up. Byron and Bowman might need some more time. Bowman doesn't have as much experience in a high-end car, and Byron, obviously, I've explained his situation. So, I did this when I was bored one night. I was supposed to be doing history, but I felt like let's conduct some stats. Because I'm getting really sick of hearing people say, haha, Chevy's actually garbage. And it's like, well, let me just, pull up stats, facts, everyone's actually wrong. Now, again, I'm not entirely sure how the season was going to go for Chevy, but by the looks of it, we have nothing to worry about. Everything's going to be great. Here are the sources I used, the articles for what Kyle Busch was saying, and the articles for all the statistics I got. Those websites are finishing orders from the races last year and this year that I averaged together myself. You guys can do that if you want to see if it's all true. But that's all from me. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you later.